I got a guest who's going to let us know exactly what is good about this Georgia team right after this.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. If you don't know where your money's going, Monarch Money is going to help you understand where it is, help you earn to your goals. More on them in a moment. I want to introduce to the podcast Coach Hayes. Coach Hayes, welcome on in. Tell the people who you are and why. We love him. We follow him. You're going to follow him as well, but why the people should follow you and what you do.
Clint, thanks for having me in. I appreciate you having me on the show this evening. Coach Hayes, my name is Chris Hayes. I live in Georgia, Northwest Georgia. I've got a veteran background of coaching, 20 plus years, coaching high school football, coached against a lot of great ones, coached a lot of great ones. Had the opportunity being in education at the time I was. And, once I started to work towards the administrative level, I left the coaching field after 22 years. And I wanted to give something back. I know that I knew a lot of ball. I knew X's and O's. I had the opportunity to see different things that were going on. I love Georgia football, so it was very nice for me to start breaking stuff down. And all it took with me one day was listening too much to people talking about wanting to set the edge at Georgia. And by God, I went up and I started saying, listen, this is how you're supposed to set the edge. I made my first show, put it out there on social media. It took off, and that's all she wrote. It's been 2 years now into the Coach Hayes Huddle model, and just been kicking it and putting stuff out every year and just really enjoying growing the brand. And like I said, that's what's brought me and you here tonight as well.
That's exactly right. We're going to do three things. I'm going to ask Coach Hayes what he likes about this offensive line, what he doesn't like about the offensive line, because Georgia fans, this just in, we're going to live and die on the offensive line, not just this week, but for majority of the season. As Kirby Smart has said, and the health and the development of offensive line is going to be huge. I'm going to ask him about the defensive front seven, what makes them who they are. Daniel and I have called them a top five unit, reminiscent of a championship level defense. We're going to ask Coach Hayes what he sees. And then finally, we're going to ask him about Tennessee, what he sees of this matchup and how we're going to go. And so get on over there, CoachHayesHuddle.com. Give him a listen, give him a follow, get him over on X as well, because man, there is some great stuff he's putting out there. And some of you people who want to think that you know, which I'm not calling you not an actual fan, because you're a fan. You fan however you want to fan. Mm-hmm. I'm just encouraging you, if you want some lingo and some knowledge to go along with your fandom, Coach Hayes is going to help you along the way. So let's start there. The offensive line, Coach Hayes. We're excited for a number of guys on this unit. We said to begin the season, there likely was going to be 8 guys rotating in until we got the final 5. We've seen that so far. Unfortunately, a little bit of injury comes into concern with that. But talk to me about who you've seen that's been performing well on this offensive line in the first 2 games for Georgia.
Well, consistency is what you want on the offensive line. That builds the chemistry that you see. And, uniquely when you have 5 guys that you're looking to count on, there's automatically 3 guys you're thinking behind that to rotate in at a center position or guard position, tackle position. We unfortunately had to use that concept right out of the gate against Marshall with, Ernest Green and both Juan Gaston having some injury issues and coming off the field. Right now, when I look at Monroe Freeling, I look at Drew Bobo, look at Micah Morris. Those 3 have been the staples to be out there and do their job. I haven't really seen necessarily something that just makes me go awe-inspiring, because I was a Micah Morris. I had a crush on him his first year. Yep. And, it was something to see some consistency out of those 3. With the addition of Juan Gaston and seeing what he had right out of the gate with the pass pro issues, it seemingly when, watching them from the perspective of slide right, what's called slide right and slide left protection, it's play action where you keep 1 extra guy in the box with your 5 to block. So you've got 6-man protection, things of that nature. Immediately, we were seeing some breakdowns already taking place. And it was really coming more from the center guard center, what I call the triad, because when you identify Mike, the guard and the center who are working away from that call have got to work together, and the backside guard has got to be there as well in that process. So there was a lot of breakdowns taking place within the triad. It's been really exciting to see, though, the depth pieces, because we all thought that Daniel Calhoun was going to be the starting right guard. He was penciled in all the way up to the fall practices.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, as we get to almost game day, we're realizing that Juan Gaston is starting to make some momentum. Now, I saw him as a recruit. I thought this kid was going to be something special, but again, a working project, a freshman, a kid that you're thinking, freshman. You got to get reps. You got to get depth. You got to get maturity. And with that being said, we saw that actually come to fruition because he started day one. They felt like his ceiling was high enough. We're going to use and deal with some growing pains. And he basically overtook Daniel Calhoun's spot. Since then, to me, they have been trying to basically by committee look at Michael Uni. You're looking at Bo Hewley. You're looking at one that is my new crush in Dontrell Glover. Love. And, Merriweather's been in there as well. And, of course, Daniel Calhoun's been rotating still in as well. I think when you look at the rotation right now, that it's going to be solidified in this way. I think Ernest Green is back out there at right tackle, Monroe Freeling at left tackle. I think you're going to see Micah Morris to the side of Monroe Freeling. But I think Dontrell Glover is going to get his first start at right guard this coming Saturday against Tennessee. I think Juan Gaston may not be ready to go. And then Drew Bobo doing a great job at the center position as well. That, to me, is what's going to solidify our five. And looking forward to seeing what they do, because I tell you, this is what was scary to me when watching film. Dontrell Glover, when he pulled the first time on a gap scheme, I swear I thought I was looking at Cedric Van Pran Granger. He had the same frame, the same build. I call myself a guard whisperer. I have a tendency to understand a guard and what they look like when they pull and they flathead when they pull to kick out. He looks the part. You can tell he's been coached well. Very fluid. His motion is very nice. He's definitely got that mean streak in him that I like, that gets after tail. And, you can tell, like I said, he's been coached very well. Very solid, good frame, has a good base, works very well, finishes through, and great effort. And that's something you want. He's got a long way to go that Coach Smart is always going to say in a presser about a kid that's a freshman. But this kid, what impresses me the most, and I'll leave you with this, Clint, is he just got here in July. Yes. I mean, he's only been here. I think Rashawn Dinkins, Todd Blackshear, and him are the only three that got here in July. So he's only been here for like 3 or 4 months, and he's already worked his way up above the Daniel Calhoun that we thought was going to be it. Yes. Juan Gaston that was going to take that spot. And now we're looking at him being a day one starter against Tennessee up at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville this weekend.
It's really crazy. I'm so glad you brought that up. I was following you over on X, and I saw where you posted that. And Glover, to me, sounded like an exciting, framed offensive lineman who's a mauler. And we need that in it because Monroe Freeling and Ernest Green, I think, though, they can have a little bit of that get forward lean and get downhill. They can. Mm-hmm. But more than anything else, I want them setting their back foot, kicking back, and punching that first arm and getting pass set. Micah Morris, to me, I said was the most important offensive lineman this year. I didn't call him the best, but I call him the most important because he can kick out to tackle. He's been solidified on the inside at guard. Drew Bobo, I think, has just been stellar so far. Mm-hmm. I think he will continue to be, as everything I see film-wise. Mm-hmm. But the other guard position, and I'm going to play this out all the way because Juan Gaston, to me, is the dude. Talk about talent level. I think he's got the biggest ceiling of this offensive line. It was evident from the first game, and it's evident from camp, all the notes we heard. Glover comes in and does that. There's a chance Glover shows out at Neyland and get downhill with 3 running backs behind you and talking about get downhill. Those guys want to hit a small crease and go. Yes. All you got to do, Glover, is that pull, that slide, that over the. Okay, great. Get on a guy, put him on his back, and you're going to see Dwight Phillips shake and go. You're going to see Nate Frazier put 1 foot in the ground and go. And you're going to see John Bowens join you in putting his shoulder into something.
Very much so.
Great. All of a sudden, Glover, Micah Morris, Juan Gaston, Bobo, and now there's an odd man out in this top 5 set, and you're going to see, I think, if all goes well Saturday, coming out of the bye week, we might have a different starting 5 if all goes according to scheme. And, well, I like this offensive line a great deal. I'm going to come back after this. I'm going to ask Coach Hayes what he sees on the defensive side of the ball because I'm very excited about this matchup. I think it's an opportunity for Georgia to show out a little bit, but first, these. And these are, in fact, Mazda. Mazda deliver confidence with every single ride. They take incredible opportunities to have detailed accents, metallic paint, all the way through, just like our favorite players do as well, with footwork, with hand placement, and with blocking schemes. All-wheel drive standard, every crossover SUV. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make the most of every move count, impossible. It doesn't even count. It becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Our friends over at Mazda, fantastic. But also want to let you know about DoorDash. DoorDash is fantastic. They have streaks alive, just like this streak that we have against Tennessee. I know they got a home win streak. Kirby's got a better home win streak. I know that they're going to go and say, we've only lost a handful at Neyland. You haven't scored more than 17 against Kirby Smart in your existence, Josh. I want to talk about that streak. Just like that, DoorDash delivers with their streak every single Saturday. You go ahead and order food, get it delivered, and you can keep that streak alive on Saturdays. Up to $250 included with that, with $100 in DoorDash credits if you keep the streak alive. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only at DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. I'm here with Coach Hayes, CoachHayesHuddle.com. Go find, follow, get insight with him. Some of the best ones that we have, Dog Nation, are here. We want to encourage your fandom by giving you some more information. We talked about the offensive line. Glover is a dude. Juan Gaston, we hope you're healthy. We both think that we're not going to see a lot of him, if any, because of that injury. We do think it's great. Kerbanese, when he tells you he was able to do a few things this week, that's code for he ain't playing. Let me just tell you right now. Like, everybody knows when he came on the press, he said, we hope to get him back. He's doing a few things this week. He's not playing. Okay.
He's
just
not playing
flat out. So we do think that we're going to have to see Glover a great deal more. Let's switch sides of the ball and let's go to the defensive side. I love this defensive front. Daniel called Jordan Hall his best defensive player in the offseason. Kristen Miller's been showing out. I love Justin Williams. We were down on CJ Allen because of pass in the pass game, but it turns out that he learned a new trick or two this offseason. Coach Hayes, I just listed some guys, and I didn't even list what I think is probably the most talented on the defense. His name is Chris Cole, who, my goodness gracious, that's a manimal over there. Coach, what do you see of this front seven? Who stands out to you, and what are you seeing schematically that are really important?
And, you know, it's hard to say who doesn't stand out over there right now. I think it's been a little overshadowed because of the sort of slow stutter start out by the offense this first two ball games, what I call almost like a preseason for what we had to deal with, you know, an FBS and FCS school back to back. But we look at the defensive front, honestly, they work together as a unit. And in, you know, a modified 3-4, which turns into basically a 4-2-5 defensive scheme, the outside linebacker, the first one I want to mention that I'm not necessarily seeing anything great from him yet, but he's doing a lot of good things still and playing solid, consistent football, and that's Quintavious Johnson. He's not being talked about as much because what I was wondering when they came out the first game, I was at the game at Marshall, and the first thing I'm looking at personnel is who's going to be the big, who's going to be the zero technique that's going to slide, and because a lot of times we've always made that a two-gap guy, a guy that's 340 plus. I thought Nnamdi Aboko might get that opportunity, but I realized right out of the gate that Kristen Miller and Jordan Hall, who's basically got titanium tibias now in both legs, that's you know, right. I think he's someone that has recharged his batteries, and I think this is a stellar year for him to go out there and shine. Daniel Monroe and I were talking the other day. You're a good friend and mine now as well, getting a chance to talk with him. He loves Jordan Hall to death, and he really made me a believer after watching him. I can see why they have got him out there. His experience and his knowing the playbook and understanding the maturity and the 10-year time he's been out there, I think he really combos shoulder to shoulder very well with Kristen Miller. And without that being said, Gabe Harris has become a man. Absolutely stacked. I mean, he looks like an NFL player in his pads. But what's nice about that is you're backed by two very veteran inside linebackers at the mic and the money with Raylan and CJ behind it. What's really been cool, I've noticed Glenn Schumann's rotation has not been take two out, put two in. What he's been doing a lot is hybrid in those two, where you're seeing Raylan in with Justin Williams and you're seeing CJ in with Chris Cole. The beauty of what I'm noticing, and this is what I wanted to add to what you asked, Clint, is sometimes what they're doing, which I love, is that rabbit package that I call, where they leave two bigs in, Jordan and Kristen are in, Quintavious comes out, and you've got Gabe Harris stand up, Chris Cole stood up with Raylan and CJ in the box. That is nasty. And I'm telling you, Chris is coming along now to where I'm noticing, I think he's a better inside linebacker fit than what Jalen Walker was doing, but he is beginning to show already the bend and running the hoop to get to the quarterback as well. With his length and his speed, it's uncanny what they can produce with that front six and front seven. So honestly, the front is going to be something that gets challenged finally this Saturday. We're going to see a good barometer from what Tennessee is going to bring up. But the beauty of it, there's things that are, you know, we are seeing Joseph Jonah Jonier is getting some reps. We're seeing Josh Horton, the kid from Miami that came in through the transfer portals, getting some reps. We're noticing that Xavier McLeod, who's finally in shape, looks good, is a really good depth piece as well. Not to mention the number one defensive tackle in last year's recruiting class and what Elijah Griffin is doing well. We continue to name names, and there's not, to me, when I'm watching film against the two teams they've played, there's not any drop off, Clint.
No, that's what's wild to me. And I think that's been my most impressiveness. We talked about this in 21 and 22. Kirby Smart, we call them hockey line transitions, and we see it a lot. We're just whole swaths of guys come out, and there's not a drop off. He's
Nope.
not. Kirby Smart is getting guys reps. He will play anybody anytime. If you want to compete, he'll get you out there. But that's not his only aspect of insight when he does these hockey line subs. What he's doing is saying, no, I expect no drop off from a true freshman in the SEC. He will play Elijah Griffin in this Tennessee game. And Elijah Griffin will make a impactful play on the first couple drives in this game.
Yep.
I fully anticipate that being the case. But you're right. Quintavious Johnson, we talked about him. Kirby Smart talked about him last year going on the travel roster and playing in special teams. Another Kirbyese, another translation. When Kirby puts you on special teams, it's because you're a dude and you're going to play very soon on the defense. If you can't play special teams, he's not playing you anywhere else. Ellis Robinson, KJ Bolden, Gunners, as well as Talon Taylor. Like, these are guys he trusts. So you just listed all those guys. I said 21 and 22 before all the names that we now know and love were names. They were the no-name defense, and they were hockey line substitutions. We're seeing very similar to 21-22, the precursors to all that this year. We're already seeing statistics back it up, and stopping the run and tackling. Those are the two things Kirby Smart started off the season saying are coming true. I'm gonna steal your language, that rabbit package. I've noticed that a couple of times in which Chris Cole's on one side. It's scary. He is intimidating on that side. I look over and he had off-field stuff, but his lean, Adam Anderson, the lean of that looks like that coming off the edge, and Channing Tindall in the middle coming off a blitz. He's going to put that all together. He's going to be a problem. Quintavious Johnson looks great. Gabe Harris, my gosh, you're exactly right. That big O over there reminds me of another full-bodied guy who can set the edge, much like Chaz Chambliss did last year. I loved how he set it, but also transition and get going. If you were to say, now we don't know about the defensive backs because they haven't been really tested. Okay.
Yep.
But if you were to say, hey, and maybe the answer is not Coach Hayes, because that would honestly be my answer. My answer right now, if somebody says, how do you want to attack this defense? I say, good luck. Just call a play call when they're in zero. And they just run a zero blitz, and you happen to get one guy slipping and you make a connection. Good on you. Like a perfectly thrown ball over the top. Good on you. Outside of that, where's the potential weakness of this front seven so far?
I have noticed and this has been something of Kirby Smart's defense and really of a 3-4 defense, especially when you have to convert to a 4-2-5, is gap scheme run away to the money side, which is to the wheel side linebacker away from the star. If you get somebody that boxes it correctly to turn it back in, you're in good shape. But if the guy doesn't get there to kick out, Gabe Harris doesn't get there, and the defensive end ends up spilling it, to which means it cuts outside that, you don't have leverage to see gap, which means right outside the tackle box is right where C gap is at. And a lot of times if the linebacker's late getting there on a read, or he gets caught up with a down block coming across, that can be a weak spot for us. So I do know, watching them against Syracuse, Tennessee especially, they do like to run what I call just ghost counter or GH counter with a guard and the H back, which we see plenty as well because we run it as well. Yeah. And so that's where I see a leverage point in the run game. I also want to see that, they've been hearing about how good the defense is. I think Heupel's going to really challenge his offensive line to get downhill and bully ball us to see what we can do against the run downhill. And as Coach Smart said, they're going to challenge us with that as well. In the defense, if they really want to have a challenge, if you really want to see a true barometer of what our defensive backfield is going to look like, they're going to get the chance to this week. And honestly, who I would take advantage of is running something against Janelle Aguero. Janelle Aguero has got to show his pass defense. And we know what he can do against the run. He loves to set edges. He knows how to understand his apex points, his leverage points to turn plays back in. He's a great tackler, but covering number 2s in space or number 3s in space could be an advantage for Tennessee because, like I said, we haven't had a chance to see him do it yet. I hope and pray that he can come out there and do his job because that's the reason why he's our starting star. But that's where I see some of the maybe mild weaknesses that we might have.
Last year we saw Star being a source of contention in which we had to move Malachi Starks on over, get him out of position, play an uncomfortable position in the star. And the star is a little bit different than the safety. It's a little bit different than nickelback. It is something that Kirby Smart has a pinnacle of his defense. He's talked about this all the time. Outside of the inside linebackers that make all the calls, the safety positions, the three back there, the corners kind of get put on an island a bunch of times, but the three safeties, if I can call them that, are a huge focal point. And I've long said I might want to see Ellis slide into that role. I think he's got the frame for it because Aguero, he misses a tackle in the alley this week, which he's been known to do before, and he comes up in run support or in seam. it could get ugly in a hurry, and I don't want to see that. I think you're exactly right. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to ask Coach Hayes a little bit more. He gave you a little bit preview. I want to ask more about this matchup with Tennessee, what he sees going on, get an official prediction. But first, these. These are, in fact, FanDuel. We love FanDuel. You should too. Make everything more with FanDuel. Can't miss offer. Right now, new customers get $5. If you bet $5, you get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins across the entire app. We love using FanDuel because it fits what we like to do, which is bet on player props, parlays, live action. It's fantastic. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. But that's not it. Also want to tell you about Monarch Money. Monarch Money is fantastic. They help us out a great deal because if you are wondering, where is my money going every single time that monthly budget meeting comes around with your significant other, guess what? Monarch Money is here to help, all in one personal finance tool. It brings your entire financial life together. One clean, easy to use interface, laptop or your phone. It's built for people with busy lives. Putting off organizing your finances is not part of your priority. This will help you. It does all the heavy lifting for you. You can identify what you're not saving on and where you're overspending so that you can go ahead and make goals, maybe for a 401k or maybe for a savings or maybe for a car for a kid coming in. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. I'm here with Coach Hayes, CoachHayesHuddle.com. Go find him over on Twitter, on the X Machine. Follow him, get to know him. He has given out great content. We've talked about the offensive line. We've given Glover as a name. We've talked about Juan Gaston and maybe this offensive line, what they're looking to do with the running backs. We've talked about the defense and Chris Cole. We've learned the rabbit. I love that. I'm going to use that, and we're going to give you credit for it every single time we do, Coach Hayes. This matchup against Tennessee, give us a big picture. Where does Georgia have the upper hand, and where do they have a little bit of a deficit?
Well, I'm going to start with the offensive side first. I think when you look at Tim Banks, the DCs from Penn State, he runs a 4-2-5 defense, and I know that he's always established himself up front. He wants to stop the run, which is something we're going to be heavy and wanting to establish as well. So I'm really interested in that matchup right out of the gate to see what he's going to do with his traditional four-man front. They run something very similar to us, but they don't modify out of it to a 3-4. They've got a defensive end or a jack position that they call the Leo. And, you know, as of right now, their will linebacker, their money position is their leading tackler. So that goes to show that a lot of things get taken away from the defensive line so the will can make plays. My thing is that we're going to have to get Gunner into a rhythm as he starts into the situation of the game. You know, the one thing I always say, when you're going to another place that's very hostile, it has a lot of culture, a lot of, you know, the hostility of an environment. It's going to be very loud there. I've been to Neyland Stadium. It is very loud. It's obnoxiously loud at times. You know, the one thing that we got to look at are the things that are the intangibles. First off, you don't want to turn the ball over. We want to keep turnovers to a minimum. And a lot of times what's not thought about is special teams. Special teams comes into play so many times, and we don't think about the third part until it becomes something important. You know, the first game of the year, we don't think about, we want to get an interception, we want to get a fumble recovery, but Lord, you know, we got something off of a punt block, you know, that we had with KJ Bolden's punt block and Cash Jones. So, you know, I want to look at those things to look at minimally looking at the damage. I know everybody really is in this mindset. They want to see Gunner throw the ball down the field. I want to see Gunner throw the ball down the field, but it's going to come down to Coach Bobo putting him in good plays that are comfortable, that gets the ball out of his hand quick, that gets him in a rhythm. If he can get into a rhythm with RPO type stuff, which is something I would really love to see us more run play action with, and that gives us an opportunity to get into a rhythm so that the run game can also complement what we're doing. Because right now, if there's one thing to me that's been consistent with our personnel is our run game and that three-headed monster. I really even don't know if we have a true RB1 right now. I know everybody wants. I think that, you know, nothing against Nate Frazier. I love him to death. I think he's a great running back. I think he can do good things. But Chauncey and Dwight have both caught up with him. And I think that's what's beautiful about that three-headed class of running backs, because they're going to be competing every day at practice, making each other better, and the competition is going to be out of sight. That's the reason why I think we're going to see great things from them all year long. So that's what I want to see on that side of the ball from the defensive standpoint. On our side defensively, we've got to take care, because Joey Aguilar is going to let it go. I know a lot of people have this mindset that, you know, he's turned the ball over a lot through the App State, UCLA transfers, and all the things he had going on, but he was running for his life, ladies and gentlemen. When you're
Yes.
running for your life throwing the football, you're going to start seeing your errors get higher and higher. He is now behind an SEC offensive line that takes care of him for the most part, and he is not scared to put the ball up in the air. Our defensive backs are going to be challenged, and we're going to have to win more of those 50-50 matchups, because if he gets the chance to throw it, what I've noticed is that Heupel has really made this offense cater around him. He's embraced it. He's done a really good job. I think right now he's roughly 39 of 59 for just north of 500 yards passing. He looked really comfortable against Syracuse, but it was also complimentary because they had a good run game against Syracuse, and that allowed him to be able to be more comfortable in throwing the football. I think his quick release and everything he does out of the RPO game looks wonderful. He throws a very good football into zone coverages. He does force the football a little bit on the run, so that's something we've got to see. We've got to create tighter windows for him in man-to-man, and we got to make his window, his 4-second window, speed up so that he's throwing in 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. I always felt like I actually had to coach against Trevor Lawrence in high school. And the one thing I was never going to let that kid do was sit back there for 4 seconds and throw the football. I brought pressure every play. He never knew where it was coming from. And we had a very good game plan against him. He was having to get rid of the ball quickly and had a lot of success till they made some adjustments. And unfortunately, it didn't come out in the good end for our team, for the good guys. But that's the thing about it. You can't let a kid sit back there all day long and just pick you apart. You've got to get after him. And I think that's something that's going to be special for us to do, because I think our defense can do just that.
That's exactly right. I love that. If you look at the metrics, Tennessee inside the 40, their run success defense kind of goes out the window. They are running backs. Again, everybody wants Gunner to just unleash it and unload it. And I don't care how we win. This is how I fan. I like winning more than anything else. And if Gunner Stockton throws 8 passes for 75 yards and we have 3 running backs who each have 75, 80 yards each, and they have a touchdown apiece, and Gunner might be, I'm happy as a clam. I am thrilled for that. And I do think inside the 40, Kirby Smart is going to minimize the effectiveness of, or the effect of turnovers by saying, let's keep the ball, let's keep running. Tennessee inside their 40 gives up big explosive runs. Now on the other side, when you're talking about defense, Kirby Smart is going to keep playing his system. I think he is Josh Heupel whisperer. You're a guard whisperer. Kirby Smart's Josh Heupel whisperer. He knows what he's going to do. Joey Aguilar is going to have tight windows, quick releases, screen game, tackling. I don't mean to oversimplify football, but at times football is still football. If Georgia defense can tackle in space, the one-on-one, we talked about Aguilar, we talked about Aguero coming up in the alley, KJ Bolden, Ellis Robinson, Daniel Harris, Everett. They have to tackle in space well because Kirby's going to bring pressure. I think you're exactly right, Coach Hayes. Keep this guy on his toes, have the windows tight, man up on the outside, and go to town. That's how you beat. And I do think we got the bullets in the chamber to pull it off against this team. I think this defense shines out. The question is going to be, can our offense get us enough points? Special teams kicking is going to be key in this. Coach Hayes, do you have a prediction in this game? Give us your official prediction, what you think is going to happen on Saturday.
I think because none of these kids who have ever played in Neyland Stadium, I think they understand the atmosphere of the game, but even with the storied history of our winning streak against them up at Neyland as well, and really over the last 8 to 9 years, I think it's going to be one of those games where we're going to be looking at a very tight ball game going all the way through. I think we're seeing something in the neighborhood of something like 24 to 21, 24 to 20, something like that. I would love to see us come out on the end. Definitely a special teams play field goal, maybe 2 field goals, but I would love for us to just be the game managers, to take care of business, play great defense, score a couple of touchdowns, kick a few field goals, and, take advantage of the opportunities getting in the plus side of the field. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I look at Jake Fromm, for example, back in 2017, Jake Fromm goes in there with basically the same mentality. I don't think his stats really were all inspiring. I do know he threw a couple of touchdowns, but I think his total yardage passing was very minimal. Yet the defense played outstanding, had a couple of picks that caused short fields for us. And, that's the game we won 41-0 up there. So, those things can happen when you look at the defensive side of the ball, taking care of their side, and then us doing our job, as I said before, I say us like I'm a part of it, but, it's one of those things where I see good game management, make good throws, high calculated throws. Bobo, put him in position where he feels comfortable to get the ball out quick, get him to your playmakers, and I think good things can happen for us. So 24-20 is what I'm going to say.
I am likewise on that. I'm going to give my official prediction with Daniel on Friday. We're going to give you locks, as well as Daniel and I are going to go back and forth, but I love that synopsis. I do truly think I saw somebody talking about it's going to be a high scoring affair, running all over the place at Neyland with I'm sorry. No, take the under in this game. The under is 48 and 49. Take the under in it. Hey, Coach Hayes, thanks for being on here. Go follow him, Coach Hayes Huddle, HUDL.com. Follow him all season long. Get in on what he's doing because it's great stuff. I learned a lot watching him and listening to him. I hope you did too. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see you guys next time.